Wonder Woman number 11, written by Bryson Azzarello, art by Cliff Chiang. We left off last issue with the whole Hades wedding to Wonder Woman, blah, blah. It doesn't really apply to this issue. So this issue picks up with Strife showing up with Hera, and she's like, hey, Mom, you missed a hell of a time down there. And Hera's like, yeah, that's great. Moving on with the plot, I put a price on Zola's head. I made a deal with one of them, and therefore her time is very limited, and as is her bastard child. So then we cut to Coloma, Michigan, who we see Demeter, and I specifically looked it up how to pronounce it, so don't give me any of that, and Artemis. And they're just basically talking, saying like, hey, Zeus's seat is still unfilled. It's going to have to be filled pretty soon. Artemis brings up the prophecy of a child who is going to kill all of their siblings in order to get to Zeus's throne. And Demeter's like, yeah, there's probably going to be some blood. It's probably going to happen. So what of it? Then we cut over to Oliveburn, Virginia, where Zola, Hermes, and Wonder Woman are sitting in a clinic. And Hermes is just giving Zola so much crap of like, you are literally carrying a godly child and you want it looked at in this podunk clinic. And her number's called and she starts making her way back. And Hermes tries to follow, but Zola just immediately shuts him out. And Wonder Woman's like, hey, just give her some space. She's trying to control this one thing in her life. Let's let her have it. I'm sure they'll do a perfectly fine job. And if not, we'll be here to protect her. And as they say that, the sun literally starts blotting out from the sky. And they look up and they see it isn't an eclipse. It is literally the sun and the moon joining together. And on cue, Apollo and Artemis ride up on a motorcycle. And they're here to collect the bounty on Zola's head. And there's a brief standoff and they get introduced to Lennox, who's also there. And after a while they're like, okay, well, if you're going to try to defend her, then we're going to have to go through you. And Apollo immediately just blasts Lennox. He's of course okay with invulnerability and all, but it comes down to a fight between Wonder Woman and Apollo, who Wonder Woman is getting pretty handily handed to her, and Hermes and Artemis, who is a bit more even. But in the middle of the fight with Artemis, Lennox comes up and tries to punch her in the face, to which his hand crumbles, and then she turns around, punches him in the chest, and his entire rib cage just caves in. And then Apollo, standing over top of Wonder Woman, is like, hey, you're gonna die here, but how long have you even been alive? And she's like, 23 years. And she's like, seriously? That's how? Okay, well, call it a juvenile mistake, but it'll be your last. And at this point, Zola, hearing all the hubbub, has jumped into a car, put it in drive, and has run headfirst into Apollo, who just stands there and takes it because he literally didn't even feel it. He just looks back and he's like, oh, hey, there she is. Yeah, we're just going to take her now. And Zola gets out of the car and shoots Apollo with a shotgun. Again, doing nothing. But he's like, all right, nice to meet you too. Yoink. And he picks her up. Artemis at this point has beaten Hermes and has taken his staff, which seems to be drenched in some amount of blood. I don't know from whom, but they both hop onto Apollo's motorcycle and drive away. And everyone starts licking their wounds, standing up. And as they look over at Lennox, they're like, Lennox, are you okay? And he's like, nah, I'm pretty much done here. It's been good. So we cut over to Olympus, and Zola is being welcomed, quote unquote, by Hera, and she's like, oh, welcome to heaven. And Zola's like, am I dead? And she's like, no, you're not dead, not yet, but you're going to wish you were after I get done with you. And she's like, hey, Zeus did not tell me that he was married. And Zola, her just gets down. It's like, would that have even mattered? And Zola just pauses and just, probably not. To which Strife is like, I admire you just being brutally honest here. Bravo. So anyway, Apollo steps up and he's like, all right, I'm here to claim my deal, because he made a deal with Hera. And as it turns out, he's claiming the throne. He's able to step in by Hera's deal and taking the righthood of the throne. To which Hera's totally good with it. He's like, all right, Apollo, bastard son, the throne is yours. I'm not going to stand in your way. But then as soon as she says that, there's another blinding light, and teleporting in is Wonder Woman and Hermes, saying like, well, if you're not going to stand in his way, we will. That's where we leave off with that. I think there's only one issue left in this arc, or at least this trade. Obviously, the whole long thing is an arc, and I don't know where we're going to end up. all the pieces are in one place, and we're literally on Mount Olympus with the throne right there. So it seems like whoever's going to claim it is going to claim it next issue. So I'm definitely intrigued to see who it's going to be. Overall, I enjoyed it. I think art-wise, good. I think they could have done... They've been seeding Apollo throughout this entire run. I think that they did a good job of doing so. I wish they would have given a little bit more on Artemis if they were going to have it be a tag team fight, because it doesn't seem any reason why, at least for right now, the Sun and the Moon would join up and Artemis seemingly gets nothing out of it. It just seems like did it for the sake of doing it. So I'm going to give this one an 8.5. I really do enjoy the way these gods are represented and the way that it is just a petty-ass Game of Thrones style, like, who's it going to be? Who's going to take control? And all this backstabbing and deal-making. I really do enjoy the most of it. So, yeah, no, 8.5, and I'm looking forward to seeing how at least this trade, if not the arc, wraps up as a whole.